but we live in these echo chambers on social media. I follow all of these super fit people. And they're always posting pictures of their magazine covers or their competitions. So you think everyone else in the world is living at 5% body fat, and it's just not the case.
I think you were probably one of a handful of guys that turned up for a top-off photo shoot who didn't kind of caveat it with, "Oh, I'm not in great shape," or "I'm not feeling it right now." And it kind of dawned on me that a lot of these guys who are walking around looking better than 99.9% of people ever will aren't feeling very comfortable or very happy in their
Yeah.
bodies. Is that something you've struggled with? You know, body dysmorphia is a term that's kind of thrown around, but have
Yeah.
you ever looked back at pictures of you when you were younger and think, my God, I'm in amazing shape. But you know at the time you weren't happy.
Oh, all the time. I'm constantly looking back. I mean, this happens and I catch myself. I remember my brother one time though, who has never been big into lifting. I said to him, I think I was, a little fluffy after a show. I said, "Oh my gosh, I feel, I don't know if I said the word obese or overweight." And he just said, "You make other people feel awful when you say stuff like that." And he might have said, "When you say shit like that is stupid to say." Like, again, getting back, 99.9% of the population doesn't look like that. They would kill to look like that. And here you are kind of belittling them by saying things like that. And so it made me realize real quick that it's like, hey, but we live in these echo chambers on social media. I follow all of these super fit people. And they're always posting pictures of their magazine covers or their competitions. So you think everyone else in the world is living at 5% body fat, and it's just not the case. And so I think, again, everything kind of comes back to perspective and things like that. You go through it, you learn from things, and that's kind of like through this fitness journey. It's just constantly learning about myself and about what it really means to be healthy. And when I came in and took my top off, I can guarantee you inside I had some angst, like, oh, I might not be, because you always are comparing yourself to that stage level 4% body fat. So I'm sure I had some angst about it, but I think that also it's one of those things that over time I've just realized that, like, this is who I am. I'm not gonna shy away from it. I'm not gonna always be 4%. And again, when your identity is more than your physique, when your identity is, if you can make it about a big part of it's about health, then it becomes, all of a sudden it's like I'm more than just this physical body that I have.
Alongside the body dysmorphia, disordered eating patterns, or however you want to phrase it, a dysfunctional relationship with food seems to be very, very common. Can you talk about any issues you might have had? Because when you are trying to get to 3% body fat, obviously nutrition is a huge part of that. And
Yep.
did you find yourself looking at food in just numbers and macros? And how did
Yeah.
you kind of get through that to get back to a healthy relationship with food?
Yeah. And a healthy relationship looks different for everyone. Like, I have a friend that, he has tracked macros, I think, every year for about 8 years. He doesn't have a family. He's a lawyer himself, doesn't have a significant other. And, he enjoys actually eating the same foods every single day. It's not like he has anxiety about, if he doesn't track things and things like, it's just easy for him because he has kind of the same foods. He's made it a lifestyle where, he kind of, he can kind of guess on things like that. For me, I can remember not knowing how to eat if I wasn't looking at a clock. Every 2.5, 3 hours, I had a meal. I had the same types of food. I remember getting done with the show or not competing for 4 months and being like, how do people just make a sandwich in the middle of the day when they're hungry? Like, how do you just eat when you're hungry? That's such a weird thought to me. Like, I've done this for 5 years. Like, eating when I'm hungry and not on a clock was so foreign to me. And I think it's just has taken a lot of time to realize that I trust myself. Like, I think everyone in their life should count macros. They should be familiar with it. I think we should teach it in schools. We should teach how to read food labels, and we should teach how to weigh out your food. And so I kind of always, I always tend to think of it more or less as like, hey, I've done it for years and years and years. I can eyeball things, and I feel really good about that. If I was ever getting ready for a show or a photo shoot, you have to sacrifice some other areas of your life to then become a little bit more hyper focused on, I got to count some calories. That doesn't mean I'm going to be OCD and think less is more and restrict. It just means that, like, hey, I need to know what I'm putting in my body so I can I can get to this goal that I have of being X body fat or a certain way to look for that magazine. But I also think in the hindsight, we don't talk enough about reverse dieting when people get done with the show systematically, again, because you don't know how to eat. You've been eating on a clock, you've been eating, weighing out everything. It's almost like when you have these addictions, we'll call that an addiction to to your fitness goals and things like that. You can't just go cold turkey and quit. You have to slowly implement, okay, more calories. Okay, now I'm going to take the weekends and I'm not going to count macros. I'm just going to have fun. And then all of a sudden it's a lot less, there's a lot less anxiety that comes with it because you realize, hey, I did it for a day and I didn't break the bank. I think the biggest thing that I had to come to terms with, one slice of pizza is very different than a whole pizza. And that was kind of my mindset. It was all or nothing. I was either 100% on my diet or I would have a bite of something that I deemed bad and the floodgates open and I would binge eat. And I think that's what I see a lot of people doing because they label this good or bad and they put so much guilt, this self guilt that we impose on ourselves, whether it's religion sometimes, whether it's eating, whether it's whatever it is that we impose, it usually is way more harmful than the act that made you feel guilty in the first point. And so I think there's got to be some self-love in there. A lot of fitness people don't, they kind of, it's kind of like Ben Stiller on, I think, Heavyweights, where he kind of hates himself, and that's why he doesn't have a good relationship with himself, with food and things like that, and it manifests.
Looking back on how your relationship with food when you were competing, do you recognize that as you having an eating disorder?
No, I mean, I think some of the eating disorder that I had was like, I would chew food and spit it out. What kind of clinical eating disorder, the crazy counting and things like that. I never realized how that wasn't really normal. And again, it was like everyone I followed did it. This is how you get lean. And now I realize that some people can manage pretty well doing that. Like I could not. I can't weigh out my food every single day of my life. But I love the idea of kind of knowing, hey, in this food group, in this meal, I know like that has a ton of fat. I'm gonna, I kind of always view things as, kind of like a bank account. If I have a certain number of calories equaling to cash every single day that I can spend, how do I want to best spend that to then get the most bang for my buck back? And whether my goal is to gain muscle, lose fat, maintain. I can do a pretty good job of looking at things and being like, you know what, I'm going to leave off the cheese and guacamole on my Chipotle. I'm just going to go with extra chicken on there, lettuce, pico de gallo, and it's still going to taste great. I'm not going to be like, oh, I hate my life. I'm eating something miserable here. But I know that like that, those small changes built up over and over meals throughout the day are going to lead me to a place where I'm like, hey, I'm pretty much I'm eating where I should be.